What's up, athletes? As often as we do push-ups, day in, day out, we do push-ups, we do some sort of exercise because we're training our bodies. We're training our bodies, we're training our minds, we're training our souls. So that is a part of repetition, and that's how you get better at things. Now, one of the things that we can get better at also, and it's also a constant talking point, are the challenges and the the detractions sometimes that we have to face in life and in the chat. So we see it a lot of times in the chats. For example, this morning we had somebody who thought that they were living rent free in our heads, as they would say. And I always tell you guys that that's not the case. But what we're using them for is they are a great learning tool as to what not to tolerate. If I can teach you to do push-ups, but I don't teach you how to push back a little bit and not accept that for yourselves, then I'm kind of failing. So we want to make sure that we set that up. I had somebody ask me in one of the chats, or actually a comment on the video, but don't you ever just want to smash them? Don't you ever want to show them, that you're not going to put up with that and things like that? And that's a great question. And I'm not coming at this person. I think that it's amazing. And we've had these conversations before with people. No, I don't want to, because my best mark, and like we all know, the best way to get beyond something is to go live your best life. Or they say the best revenge is just to go live your best life. So um, while we may address it at times, it never does it live rent free in our heads. And the response that I got to my initial response, to say, no, that's not how I feel about those things. They came back and said, but I'm a man, I'm a father, I'm, a brother, and I'm not going to get bullied and all these things. But, sometimes the easiest way to walk away from a bully is just to walk away from them. Sometimes the easiest thing to do to not get bullied is just walk away from them. I understand. And now here's the rub. Are we talking about defending ourselves, or are we talking about defending our honor? Because sometimes you defend your own honor simply just by not acknowledging it. But if you have to physically defend yourself, that's different. But if we're going to just bow up and say, well, you're not going to talk to me that way and things like that, we are asking for a different circumstance and a different set of issues, a new set of issues that aren't always going to turn out in our favor. Look, fighting is not going to be um, the win that we always want it to be. And I'm talking about physical altercation. That's not going to be it. Going back and forth arguing with people is not always going to be the win that we want it to be, or that we think that it is. You can think that, but as long as somebody is continuing to garner your attention, as long as somebody thinks that they're making you emotional, or if they actually are making you emotional, then are we winning? What are we really winning if we're continuing to give attention to something that we normally wouldn't have? Now, if you just happen to still be built for drama and that's what you enjoy doing on a regular basis, that's a whole different story. But when we're talking about doing better, like doing better at those push-ups every day, I see it in the chats. People say, I started doing push-ups a month ago and now I can do twice as many push-ups, or I've lost 15 pounds. That's because you've gotten better from being consistent at doing something that's going to benefit you. So when we can consistently say, I'm going to step away from the drama, guess what we don't have next time? We don't have that argument. We don't have that stress. We don't have that elevated sense of needing to put ourselves in a position to feel like we're always on a defensive. Because that's what drama is. Drama puts us on a defensive. We're always embracing. We're always bracing for what's next. It's like being in a car with a bad driver. Like you're clutching that side door, that handle, because you're bracing for impact. We don't want to drive like that. We want to ride nice and easy. We want to make life easier for us. So when we make life easier for us, it comes with cutting out the poor things and the poor choices. And that can be a person who is a mainstay, a boss, a family member, coworker, neighbor. Sometimes those are the people that are constant. And then there's the other ones that are more um, just passing by, person in traffic, somebody at the store, things like that that you don't see on a regular basis. So we have two forms of things that we really need to address. How am I going to deal with this when it comes upon me? And it's a training. It's a training of your mind, your body, and your soul to say, I don't want the drama. I don't want to have to fight with people. Certainly you draw a border, but your border, once somebody passes your border, it doesn't mean that you immediately have to launch into warfare. It means that you fall into a place of comfort to know that this is exactly what I said, and this is not going to go any further than this. But we don't have to launch into an all out offensive. We don't have to feel like a fight, as in a physical altercation, an argument, name calling, any of those things, because now we're detracting. We're detracting, and we see that in our chats as well, where people will talk about, "Oh, I was working out for 2 months, and then I stopped for a month, and now I got to get back into it," because we've kind of fallen back on things. We've gotten back into old habits. So, is it easy to immediately say, yeah, I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to stop arguing with people, or I'm not going to think that I'm soft or weak, or because I'm a man or because I have kids that I have to do these things. No, no. In the grand scheme of things, what are we aiming for? If we're doing the push-ups, we're aiming for better health over the long term. If you are saving money, you're saving for retirement. You're saving for something better later on. So we can do that now when we're practicing control, emotional control, that we don't feel like we have to flip a switch and immediately jump into it in attack mode, unless you're physically being attacked. But people can say words all day long. What do we tell our children? Don't let the names get to you. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. So if we're talking about being able to deflect things, that's a coping skill, to be able to understand that words are just words. And especially, I tell my kids, if it's not true, then what are we talking about? People can call you a name all day, but if it's not true, then why do we believe it? No different if I were to say, hey, the sky is green. We're not listening to that because it's not. We know that that's not true. So if they're not saying things that aren't true, don't give it validation. Don't give it an argument. Don't give it a debate. You just say, no, no, that's not true. And you just move on. It's so much easier. And when you stop carrying the armor of expectation, if you stop carrying the armor of expectation, that you have to put this on. No, sometimes it's the cloak of invisibility. When somebody comes in and says something, and then you're just gone. Where'd they go? I don't have anybody to hate on anymore because you left. You didn't stand there and fight it out with them. Everything isn't meant to challenge us to initiate with it. Sometimes it's meant to challenge us to say, do you know that this is a time to leave? If a rattlesnake comes over and starts, you don't buck up to it and say, oh, you think you're tough, and start reaching for it. No, you back away. You back away. Cars honking coming down the street, crazy fast and stuff. You don't stand in the way and do this. Well, some people do, and thinking that that's the challenge. No, challenge is to get out of the way. Some things are warnings. That rattle, the horn, those are warnings. And when people come in saying weird things, bad energy, that's the warning. You're hearing the rattle. You're hearing their horn. They're telling you. And now it's time for you to be able to say, oh, it's time for me to move out of the way. It's time for me to be someplace else. So instead of the armor of expectation, put on that cloak of invisibility. And invisibility doesn't mean you're shrinking down inside of them. It just means you're simply removing yourself from the situation. Because I'm going to tell you, physical altercations, let's say it escalates to that. Let's just say it escalates to a yelling match. You're going to do that at your job? That looks unprofessional. And that's going to be your reputation. You're going to do that in front of your neighbors? It doesn't look all that good. And that can become your reputation. And trust me, there's only so long that being the tough guy, being the loud person, it only lasts so long. And then people are going to start moving away from you because now every time you open your mouth, you are the rattle, you are the horn, and you are what people don't want to be associated with. Let's say it does go to a physical altercation and you just lay out that one hitter quitter and they're unconscious right here on their feet in front of you, and they fall to that ground unprotected, hit that head. And that's where, right there in that moment, is where a lot of manslaughter cases, involuntary be it was a fight, maybe it was even mutual combat, they hit you first, but somebody's died as a result of the inability to control ourselves. And I'm not talking about a mugger that jumps out of the bushes. I'm talking about you cut each other off in traffic and you exchange and pull over and da 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 or whatever. You're out at the nightclub. You're at the restaurant. Somebody says something to your girl, and we think that that's the measure. We think that that's the measure in which to go and proceed. And people have lost their freedoms, not to mention somebody's lost their life over things that were clearly avoidable. The rattle and the horn were telling us, but we couldn't hear because we had that helmet on along with the armor because we were in that moment of expectation rather than that cloak of invisibility. Look, somebody says something about your girls, and I get it. Calling her out her name, that's way different. And it's still something to be said, hey, like, let's just chill out here. Like, we're not doing that. But somebody says your girl's beautiful, she's hot, whatever. Yeah, you're right. Like, give them, yeah, you're right. And she's leaving with me. She's leaving with me. And some people are going to say, oh, this is punk behavior. You're soft. You're scared. No, I'm just smartened up enough to know. And I've seen enough. And I've been through enough that that's not the route. That's not the route. We have brains for a reason. We have this whole prefrontal cortex that is developed at a certain age. And so I understand when I was younger, I wouldn't have thought that way. But as time goes on, as wisdom is bestowed upon us, as knowledge, information happens to us, what are we doing with it? Is it sticking to us or are we just dismissing it? Nah, not me, not me, not me. Okay, cool. But I can tell you there's two places that are a fantastic educator: graveyards and prisons. They're filled with lessons, filled with lessons. And there's the old saying, hard heads make soft asses. Pardon my language. So what are we doing, guys? And I'm not talking about just strangers on the street. Again, this can be coworkers, this can be family members. Sometimes those are the toughest ones. The people that are closest to us, that we know, that we are involved in, we in intimate situations with partners, things like that. And so sometimes those are the harder ones to have to walk away from. But it's necessary. Don't get yourself caught up. I'm going to leave it at that. Guys, let me know what your thoughts are. Ace up the sleeve, advice, comment, experience. I think it's important. And again, if I don't share, I can share push up squats all day, but if I don't push some real life lessons into this as well, then we're just getting bigger and more muscular, things like that. And that's not it. And trust me, I've had people ask me over the years, train me to fight. Why do you want to learn to fight? Why do you want to learn this martial art? Why do you want to learn this? Oh, because I want to learn how, because somebody did something to them. I say, I can't do that. I can't do that because now I'm giving somebody who's never taken a lesson on, say, firearms, I'm giving you a whole gun and you're just going to go out and use it indiscriminately. I can't do that. We're responsible. And as an educator in martial arts in the past, it is important. Think before you act. That was the first lesson that I told the kids. Think before you act. So I would like to see what your thoughts are on this. If you've been faced with this, whether it's personal, professional, whether it's casual, social, whatever the circumstance was, leave me something. How did you handle it? Or how do you feel about that to this day? Did you have that epiphany? Did you change like I did? I'm not saying it makes me better than anybody. It makes me better than I was. And that's the only person I have to be concerned with, is how did I do in the past? Will I be able to walk away from everything unscathed? No, because there's a lot of people out there who haven't figured it out yet, that you can certainly just walk away from things and those words don't have to be exchanged. But that's a different measure. Maybe that's a different talk when we're talking about somebody has actually broken that barrier, put their hands on you, and then you have a different story. But that's not being a punk. That's not being, soft. That's not being weak. That's saying, okay, now somebody is putting me in mortal danger, and now I'm going to address that. So, again, guys, love to hear what your thoughts are. Ace up the sleeve, advice, comment, experience. Like we like to say, I hope this finds everybody in your place, pursuit or beginnings of total health, mind, body, and soul. And this is the Impact Athletics Association. So, guys, on top of it, I'm going to leave some subscriptions and videos. And yeah, stick around.